From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the Business, Equity, and Opportunities Podcast with Scott Sander.
Hi, and welcome to a special edition of Business, Equity, and Opportunities. If you have a business up and running or you want to soon, we hope you'll celebrate the milestones that mark your journey. We're doing that today, marking our first year on the air and launching into our second. From day one, our goal has been to give you tools to help you build and grow a small business. Our own startup story starts with a bright idea and some brainstorming from our bosses. More details on that later. Our team returns to the fundamentals of that idea each week, turning to contributors from our community for timely stories that others miss, to guide you through 7 topics: getting started, acquiring capital, accounting and bookkeeping, the week in business, running your business, an industry focus, and a success story to inspire you. This morning, we're bringing you new insight and returning to some of the best perspective we've gotten from contributors over our first year. We'll also sprinkle in some insights about how this show and our podcast and our newsletter come together each week. Now, though, to the business of business today on Business, Equity, and Opportunities. We celebrate our first year on the air, relive some of our favorite stories, and our CFO, Ty Shea, has more annual financial tasks you need to be aware of.
Every business is unique and has a target audience. If you own or manage a business, Circulus Digital Media can help you connect and grow your customer base with turnkey digital solutions that are nimble, offering best-in-class results, service, and support to reach a bigger customer base, allowing you to pinpoint a specific audience down to the smallest details. Get outside the city, the state, span the globe. Put Circulus Digital Media to work for you. Get started now at circulusdigital.com. That's circulusdigital.com.
The holidays are all about sharing with family. Meals, couches, stories, Grandma's secret pecan pie recipe. And now you can also share a cart with Instacart Family Carts. Everyone can add what they want to one group cart from wherever they are. So you don't have to go from room to room to find out who wants cranberry sauce, or whether you should get mini marshmallows for the yams, or collecting votes for sugar cookies versus shortbread. Just share a cart, and then share the meals and the moments. Download the Instacart app and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus, enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
Welcome again to Business, Equity, and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. Throughout our first year in business here, we've spoken to business owners, bankers, grant writers, and many more people with one goal in mind: finding you money to make your business dreams a success. Here are some of the best moments of access to capital.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Access to capital.
One of the overwhelming needs of entrepreneurs was access to capital. And so in 2010, the Flagship Enterprise Center started a microloan program to its physical tenants. And this is the lending arm that we now know today as Bankable. Our vision at Bankable is that anyone can launch, grow, and sustain an impactful business. And we do that by working with entrepreneurs who aren't quite ready to get a loan at a bank. And so we work with those entrepreneurs closely, and a lot of times we're able to make loans that banks won't.
Credit is an agreement between a consumer and credit agencies or the lender. Basically, it's showing your creditability towards your business, towards the lender, and to make sure that you are actually showing a good history of making payments on time, and that builds a trust between you and the lender. So you can have a good business credit, but if you don't have your personal credit where it needs to be, it can get declined. A lender would ask you a minimum 2 year of personal and tax returns and the business.
My role at the Indiana Economic Development Corporation is really all things small business and entrepreneurship, and think of that broadly, what entrepreneurship means, but it's the one-on-one technical assistance and support to small businesses and entrepreneurs and programs that go with that. So early capital, investment, all of that touches our team here at the IEDC. So the INTAP program allows a company to go seek outside resources and expertise to complete a project as they grow grow and develop. The program is competitive, but businesses can apply for up to $15,000 to help them procure a service provider to complete a project that is agreed upon.
A CDFI is a fancy name for Community Development Financial Institution. So we primarily focus on providing capital and financial services to businesses that are often overlooked in underinvested communities. Oftentimes when an organization will seek a bank, banks are good, but oftentimes banks may see higher risks involved, or they may not see a return on their investment as they would like with a smaller organization. So CDFIs are really designed to sort of foster that economic opportunity in neighborhoods that may not have that opportunity.
We provide grant money to aspiring playwrights so they can see their visions go from the page to the stage. We provide funding for directors, producers, technicians, actors. We provide the venue for them to use. We help them with the marketing and promotion of the event. It's a playwright's dream. The hardest part about getting a play produced is the finance, without a question, is the finance. So for a fledgling playwright to be able to not even have that on their radar is a tremendous opportunity. Last year, we received 41 scripts. And from those, we selected 5. We submit them to a juror, a drama juror, that selects those that should go to consideration. And we announce this winners in about April. And then they have until November to audition, rehearse, get the set together, and we also assist with that, and get the production ready for viewing to the public.
I am a connector, and I'm very resourceful, and so I just get really great pleasure in helping a business owner, connect them to the resources that they need to get started and to move the needle on that business that they're working on. Pitch Feast kind of started as a hobby between a group of individuals who were, just interested in doing some business support in the city, but the overall goal was just to kind of support local ideas with the local audience over dinner. So the concept of Pitch Feast is to connect under-resourced entrepreneurs with the capital resources they need to get their business started.
I think this conversation has taken a different level since, in the summer of George Floyd and the interest of more companies in making sure that investments were going into minority communities. I tell you 2 things. There is a lot of capital out there. And I think what we don't have is enough knowledge in the small business community of that capital, if that makes sense. So, we're a bank, like many other financial institutions. We have funds to deploy all of that, but there is some rules and regulations that people have to follow. Many times you find out in minority communities that they don't know sometimes what those rules are. So it takes probably a little longer to explain the process, but once they're there, they can access it. Now, there is also a number of institutions in town doing access to capital for companies that maybe are just starting, maybe are behind in some things, maybe they need extra help before they can become bankable, and they are doing amazing jobs. I mean, I think PPP, that distress that created, actually added a tremendous opportunity for the small business community to learn access to capital in a different way.
Welcome again to Business Equity and Opportunities. If you've joined us often, you know it is time to talk accounting and bookkeeping, and this time with our friend and frequent contributor Ty Shea, CFO of Circle City Broadcasting. A good change of spring to summer to you. How is it going on your end?
Man, I can't complain at all, Scott, and it's good to see you again.
We see the pools opening. We see the farmers markets firing up and get ready to sell their wares. It occurs to us, and maybe this is a continuation of conversation we had recently about things you look at every year. Not everybody's on the same calendar, though. There are different businesses that kind of peak at different times, and there's an accounting and bookkeeping element to all of that.
No question, and you're right. Some businesses are highly dependent on certain times of the year, and that obviously can be a boon, but it can also present certain challenges, right? As you're forecasting and budgeting, which I think are both very important tools when you're talking about a cyclical, maybe a time of year dependent business. Getting an understanding of how the ground is shaking out as far in advance as you can in anticipation of how that season's going to play out is very important. For instance, I can think back, when I went to college, there were restaurants that were located near sporting facilities, like for instance, in Indianapolis, right? Businesses that are located around the football stadium, those businesses are heavily dependent, some of them perhaps, on Colts games, right? Mm-hmm. And so forecasting those and ideally, weather can play into some of that and things of that nature. It's just all the more important that those businesses plan for those dry times and then properly budget and gauge how the better times are going to go.
It's interesting as well because you think of the rush that we get when things are going well. And a lot of our friends who are watching right now, this is the first crack they'll have at that flush of success. And so let's take, for example, your scenario where somebody sets up a restaurant near a place that seasonally gets very busy, but then may have a few months a year that are not. Do you feel you need to be both flexible and maybe a little bit humble when those first dollars start rolling in to understand, okay, it's not always going to be like this?
No question. And I think you have to, if you haven't gone through a full cycle, even a full cycle and a half or 2 cycles, you better be leery about, how you spend that money as it's coming in and setting up a rainy day fund. And again, budgeting, making sure you can get through those lean months, and then properly budgeting for your expenses, right? Whether that's personnel, whether that is product, in the case of a restaurant, things like that. Very important, no question.
Taishay, a good year-long sort of business luck to you, because I know that yours is one that has some cycles in it as well. But your constant support of us over our now more than 1 year on the air, we really appreciate.
Thanks so much, Scott. It's good to chat with you again.
As we celebrate your current and future success and our own first year. Like you, we're trying to run a business day to day. Here are some of our favorite tips that contributors have delivered in our first 52 weeks.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Running your business day to day.
So a specialty in our business is crisis management and crisis communication. So whenever we get the chance to talk to entrepreneurs and business leaders, I always encourage them to think about their crisis plan. In our world, that's very narrowly focused on crisis communications and response. You may have a broader incident response strategy that you have as a business, but thinking about the crisis communications portion of that plan. So what if your business burns to the ground? What if an employee makes a really bad decision and you're looking at embezzlement or other bad business practices?
So the networking actually gets you to learn more, how to relate more, and build those social skills. And for some people to do that 2-minute elevator speech, it helps them do that. And with this group, we have one guy who does tool of the day. So he'll go around, here's my tool, and how it relates to life sometimes. We also have inspirational moments or learning moments that maybe you wouldn't get in a larger group. Diversity works itself out. I don't want a bunch of 6'4", 280-pound guys in the group.
I always say that we have to build with and for the community and not to. Because who's going to come to the building when you're done, right? We have to think about the end game. And I tell people, if you're talking about socioeconomics, you got to talk to the people first. Find out what they want, how can they get involved and helped. And I always say you have to be intentional about diversity with equitable outcomes and not opportunities. So I would say the goals and the success is the outcome. We always want to bring diversity, equity, and inclusion to the table, but what is the matrix at the end? Did they grow? Did they finish first? And did they grow?
Our focus is to serve the entire city of Indianapolis and the county of Marion, which means every single living human being. And we have a special focus on those who are the most vulnerable, those who have been historically disenfranchised and kind of left out of the healthcare system. So when you look at that, what you know is that we are absolutely committed to diversity. Our patients are very diverse. And so for us, it's really important that we have a staff that's also reflective of the community. It's really a very focused and intentional effort. Our team, we're constantly making sure we're getting out into all of the media venues that we know to communicate. We have open positions. We partner with community partners to let them know we have open positions. And then we also promote from within. So we have a lot of training and development leadership courses that we are saying, if you're already here, please come to us. Help us develop you. Help us grow you.
Our business is about making lives better. And we certainly have emphasized inclusion as how we do business. And having partners who are seeking to help us to create solutions, who bring that to the table, is how we get better solutions faster. So we want to have businesses who are in the community helping us to drive outcomes for Eli Lilly and Company and the patients that we serve. There is some way to contribute in this inclusion, in this equity journey. We recognize our wherewithal is more than what many, so hold us accountable for that measure of outcome. But for smaller shops, we encourage you to pick a spot. If it's choosing a vendor or enabling more jobs for underrepresented minorities that's relative to your wherewithal, that is your call. If it's within your wherewithal. That's what we've been encouraging.
Yeah, so Staffing 101 is we're basically a middle person in between the company and the talent. And so we serve as a bridge between companies looking for staff to ramp up employment. And we're also kind of a in-between talent provider to those looking for a job, so we can help them find work. So we are kind of in the middle between the employee and the employer, and we serve as a bridge to help kind of connect the two. It's one thing to get them, but to keep them and hold on to them for a long time in an age where you have a lot of free agents and you can move around and the market was looking for talent. You've got to be more competitive in trying to retain and engage. So some of my advice would be create pathways for different opportunities for people to develop. So your development and retention plans need to be in place. And you just need to be really strategic about how you attract and then retain some of the newer talent today. They're looking for different options. They want flexibility, to maybe work from home, or they want kind of a hybrid work-life balance. So it's very different. You have to be adaptive. You have to be accommodative. But it's a good challenge for employers right now trying to retain talent.
As we wrap up this show that marks our first year on the air, thought it might be useful to share the inspiration for our own success story so far. Our boss, Dewan McCoy, traces it back to a training program that he went through years ago about how to buy a TV station. The National Association of Broadcasters put it on and put him on the road to shattering broadcasting barriers, and his current venture, making Circle City Broadcasting a black-owned business success. Dewan, Ty Shea, and Jason Hunter hammered out the foundation of business equity and opportunities, then turned it over to our team to put into practice each week. Peggy McClellan, Mike Perry, Alexa Enoch, Caleb Gillick, John Stevens, and yours truly work on the television show. Alan Haw turns what we do then into the podcast you can subscribe to through the All Indiana Podcast Network. Megan Stratton delivers on our promise of updating our newsletter every day. As our next year starts, we'll always keep offering ways for those in the know to share their information in our core 7 topics. And we hope you'll learn something each week, and we promise to keep learning too about how to better serve our community. We'll see you next week as we move into our second year of business equity and opportunities.
I'm Scott Sander. Thanks for listening.
Watch the Business Equity and Opportunity Show on Wish TV and access all of our content and share it on demand anytime at BEOshow.com. You can find more podcasts from Wish TV on the All Indiana Podcast Network at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.